Hello everyone and welcome to another lecture of Physiology for Engineers with Professor Gonzalez-Fernandez at Lehigh University. Today we are going to look a bit more in depth at the process of digestion. So we are going to look at the digestion of three different types of foods. We are going to look at the digestion of carbohydrates, lipids, and also proteins. Here I have summarized a schematic in comparison to what we saw in the previous lecture of the digestive system. So if we start here, we have the mouth. Then we're going to have the esophagus. Then we have the stomach. And then we have the small intestine. Okay, so very important, in the digestive system, we also have accessory organs. And one of the most important here for the digestion is going to be the pancreas. And it's really important because it's going to secrete here different type of enzymes that are very important for the digestion of the three different foods that we are going to look at today. The pancreas is going to secrete these enzymes into the duodenum for the digestion in the small intestine. So as you can see here, in comparison to the previous schematic, I didn't include the large intestine because the large intestine, there is no digestion happening. We only have absorption of water and salts. So instead of the large intestine, I draw here a schematic of the intestinal mucosa. So what is happening here in the small intestine? So this is a close-up of the intestinal mucosa, in which we have the cells of the mucosa, and the cells of the mucosa are really important because here in the cell membrane, they are going to have different enzymes associated to the cell membrane that are going to participate into the process of digestion. And this part here of the mucosal membrane or the intestinal mucosa is called the brush border. So we have the cells. So in the cells we have different processes, and then finally the different nutrients they are going to be released into the bloodstream through different mechanisms that we are going to look at. Okay. So after explaining the little schematic, let's go to see the carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. So the first group that we are going to look at are the carbohydrates. So the digestion of the carbohydrates starts here in the mouth with an enzyme that is secreted by the salivary glands that is called the salivary amylase. So the salivary amylase is going to break this complex carbohydrate into smaller carbohydrates. It's going to break them into disaccharides and also trisaccharides. But there is very little amylase in our saliva, so most of the complex carbohydrates, they are going to arrive complete to here to the small intestine. So the salivary lipase is going to digest the carbohydrates into these disaccharides. And also trisaccharides. Okay, but because we have very little lipase in our saliva, we are going to also have a lot of very complex carbohydrates that are going to arrive complete to the small intestine. So in the small intestine, then we are going to have the further degradation of these complex carbohydrates into the disaccharides and the trisaccharides. So finally, this is going to be done by the pancreatic amylase. So this pancreatic amylase is going to further digest everything into these disaccharides and trisaccharides. And then these compounds are going to arrive here to the brush border, to the membrane of the mucosa, and then we have different enzymes that are going to further digest here into monosaccharides. So these enzymes that are going to further divide these disaccharides and trisaccharides into smaller carbohydrates are, for example, we have the lactase and the fructase and the sucrase that are going to further digest these into finally monosaccharides. Okay, so then these monosaccharides here in the cells, they're going to travel into the blood through the process of facilitated diffusion. Okay, cool. So let's move now to the lipids. Okay, so very similarly to the carbohydrates, the digestion of the lipids is going to start here in our mouth, and this is going to be due to another enzyme that is called the lingual lipase. Okay, so this lingual lipase is going to digest many of the lipids of the triglycerides into less complex triglycerides, into monoglycerides. But only 20% of the lipids are going to be digested into monoglycerides here. 80% of the complex lipids are going to go to here to the small intestine. So these complex lipids that were not digested by the lingual lipase are going to arrive here to the small intestine, and we have another enzyme that is secreted by the pancreas, which is called the pancreatic lipase. So the pancreatic lipase is going to further digest these lipids and also the monoglycerides, and we are going to get these monoglycerides and we are also going to get fatty acids in micelles. But they are going to be in micelles. Well, it's more or less like this. So they form like bilayers, like similar to the phospholipid bilayer in the cell membrane, right? So these micelles with the digested lipids, they are going to fuse into the cell membrane. So they are going to fuse into the cell membrane. Okay. So then, once they are inside the cell membrane, these monoglycerides and fatty acids, they are going to be kind of like reaggruppated again, and we are going to form again these triglycerides. And inside the cell, these triglycerides are going to be they are going to be combined with vitamins, steroids like the cholesterol, steroids, and also proteins to form these very complex lipid particles that are called the kilomicrons. So finally, these kilomicrons are going to be secreted to here the blood through exocytosis. And we are going to have these kilomicrons here in the blood. Okay, so then we arrive finally to our last food that we're going to look at today, which are the proteins. So most of the digestion of the proteins is going to be made here in the stomach. So in the stomach, if you remember from the previous lecture, we have a very important enzyme which is called pepsin. So remember that the pepsin comes from another precursor enzyme that is called pepsinogen. So the pepsinogen, thanks to the hydrochloric acid and the acid environment, is going to form the pepsin. And the pepsin is very important that it's only active at a really low pH between 1.5 to 2. So we need this high acidity for the pepsin to be active. Okay, so this pepsin is going to degrade the proteins or digest the proteins and break the bonds of the amino acids, and it's going to form these polypeptides. And then these polypeptides, they are going to go to the small intestine, and then they are going to be further digested into the small intestine thanks to different enzymes. For example, we have the elastase and the trypsin. Another enzymes like, for example, the carboxylopeptidase. So these are going to finally further digest the polypeptides and form amino acids and small peptides. So these ones are going to arrive here to the brush border, and we have further enzymes here at the brush border. So the most important enzyme here is going to be the dipeptidase. Peptidase. So then we are going to have finally amino acids. And these amino acids, they are going to be released into the blood. Thanks to same here, facilitated diffusion. And also co-transport. Okay, so I think we are done here. So we have looked at the digestion of carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins, and the different processes that happen in the different parts of our digestive system. Very important, the digestion of the carbohydrates and the lipids starts here in the mouth with the salivary amylase and the lingual lipase, respectively. And then we have further digestion here in the small intestine thanks to the hormones, the enzymes that are secreted by the pancreas. And then we have further digestion here in the brush border, in the mucosa, thanks to the enzymes that are associated to this border. And finally, we get the monosaccharides here in the case of carbohydrates, and the kilomicrons in the case of lipids. Proteins are a bit different, right? So the protein digestion starts here in the stomach, thanks to pepsin. And then we have further digestion in the small intestine with the elastase and the trypsin and other enzymes. And then finally here at the brush border, we have the dipeptidase that is going to further digest all the small peptides into amino acids that are going to be released into the bloodstream. Cool. So I hope that you enjoyed this lecture. See you next week. Thank you.